Hi, this is Willie Tyler. And this is Lester. You're listening to the 25th Hour Radio Show with Rob and Randy.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.
All right, Willie, what made you decide to become an entertainer and more specifically a ventriloquist?
You know, when I was 10 years old, and back in Detroit, there was a gentleman who was on television, and his name was Paul Winchell, and he had a little character named Jerry Mahoney. And I'd seen this television show when I was very young, and I was very fascinated on how he made that little character, Jerry Mahoney, come to life. So the very next day, I wanted to emulate what he did, and I took my sister's discarded doll, and I kind of jerry-rigged it. I did a MacGyver on it, jerry-rigged it, and made it to where I was able to pull the string in the back of the neck, and the mouth moved. So I was able to use that for a few years before I bought a store-bought ventriloquist figure.
Now, how much would you practice a day?
You know, I practiced a lot. You know, it's because when I was I remember after school, let's see, I think, I was in junior high at the time, but after school, I would come home. No, I'd go to deliver papers. I used to deliver newspapers. So after the newspaper thing, I'd come home, and I'd get in front of the mirror and practice. I'd practice sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours, but it was just off the little dining room there where my mom was in there. She was ironing, and she could hear me practicing. You know, and it's okay, you know, for you to practice, but sometimes other people don't want to hear you practice. It's like put the violin or something like that, or the piano, because you're doing the same stuff over and over and over again. And it's all right for you, but somebody that's listening to it, it's like she's saying, "Oh, can you give it a rest now, just a little bit?" You know. So I'd take a break and then come back and do the same thing over and over again, and it worked out.
When did Lester come into the picture?
The Lester character came along, when I was I think the first Lester came along when I was about 13 years old. And it was like I'd seen an ad in Popular Mechanics magazine, and it said, learn ventriloquism. And the school happened to be just outside of Detroit, where I grew up. It was in a place called Ghost Point Woods. And this lady had a correspondent ventriloquist school there. Mayor School of Ventriloquism. So my teacher took me out there. So I got the correspondence course. I got a little ventriloquist figure, and the first Lester I got from her. She made him up for me, and then all the other Lesters. See, that was the first Lester because he was small, and I was small, of course. And then later on into my teens, I got a medium Lester, and that particular Lester I used, and when I went to service, I used him all the way through the service. And when I got out, and I got back to Detroit, then I got with Motown. And when I got with Motown, I started introducing the Motown acts. And the medium Lester, because we would work theaters. And theaters like that, large venues, they really couldn't see that medium Lester far away. So what I did was I would go back to her, and I had a larger Lester made. The Lester that you've seen on all the television shows, that's the one that I have today. He was bigger. So and it worked out nicely. People would be able to see it. But the only thing about it, the people in Motown, when I got the new Lester, the biggest Lester, and they saw him doing the performances, they said, we like the other one better, because they were used to looking at the other one. But then over a period of time, they got used to looking at him. It's like a replacement. Somebody replaces somebody, and it takes a while for other people to get used to him.
Now, do you still have all your original Lesters?
Well, yeah, I got one. Well, the medium one is on display in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. They got a ventriloquist museum down there, so he's on display down there. But the little Lester I got, and of course the larger Lester, he's been around a whole bunch of years, and he's gone through different hairstyles. So he used to have that big, gigantic afro back in the days when everybody had big hair, you know. But it's been cut down now. It's not as big because he wears a cap now, so he wouldn't have been able to wear the cap with the big hair.
You've been on so many shows. What's your most favorite appearance?
You know, I've been on a lot of shows, but it's like the reason I did the David Letterman show, and it's a few years back, but he had it like it was Ventriloquist Week.
Yeah, you were the first one, weren't you? They started it
Yeah,
off with you.
yeah, and it was like it was in New York at the Ed Sullivan Theater, and what happened? It was sort of odd that that I was always trying to get on the Ed Sullivan Show, but by the time I was eligible to be able to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, he had retired. But it was like I did make the Ed Sullivan Theater, so because the David Letterman Show comes from there. So in a way, I'm saying to myself, I did do the Ed Sullivan Theater, and it's weird because I did a Mercedes commercial some years back, and they somehow or another they got some footage from Ed Sullivan, and it's like I think they did it with John Wayne too, where he's in a commercial, and but it's like Ed Sullivan was in this commercial introducing with special effects and stuff, introducing the new Mercedes. So I was and Lester and I we were in the Mercedes itself, and it's sort of weird. We weren't on this show, you know, when it was on the air, but we were on his show in the commercial. So that was sort of weird, you know. It's like, so we did make the Ed Sullivan Show in a way.
Well, that's awesome. Now everyone knows you as a ventriloquist, but you're also a gifted comedian. Have you ever done stand up without Lester?
Well, I never did I never did stand up. It's like it's sort of weird, you know, to be able to do that. Because I'm used to it's like what is it, Dr. Jekyll, not Jekyll, yeah, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of situation where I can deliver a punchline through Lester. And Lester's that particular character. He's the funny character, and I'm the straight man. So in other words, growing up, I just always said to myself, I'm the straight man, so I really can't upstage Lester. So Lester always has the funny lines, and I'm always the straight guy. And you know, it's like I thought about doing stand up, but it doesn't work for me that way. But singing, because of being with Motown, that's why we put the singing in the act. Lester sings and I sing. So it's like a situation where we sing songs. It's not like limericks or funny songs. Well, some of them can be funny, but some of them are really straight songs. You know?
Yeah. Well, you guys did a song. Can't tell if the roof leaks if it don't rain.
Yeah, how you gonna know if the roof leaks if it never ever rains?
That would, I mean, and that's just like it's a serious song, really.
Well, yeah, you know what? I wrote that song. It's like I was in the car one day and I was driving, and the top of my windshield, it was leaking inside over the steering wheel, and I said to myself, I never would have known this car leaked if it hadn't rained. Then I said, oh, wait a minute, how are you gonna know if the roof leaks if it never ever rains? So from that was how I was going to write all the lyrics to that song.
I gotta ask this. You're gonna think I'm silly, but really, how upset was Lester when you took his French fries in the McDonald's commercial?
Yeah, we did about 3-4 campaign things on that, and it was like it was great because he was, as you see, he was animated in there. He was able to he was able to lead. He was able to bring his girlfriend in one shot. And because all these things are on YouTube, people can find them on YouTube. Those little particular sets of the commercials. And but yeah, you know, he loved the fries. Of course, he loves the fries like everybody loves the fries. People can't beat those fries.
You cannot beat those fries, man. Well, now correct me if I'm wrong. I remember as a kid watching you and Lester on Saturday morning. And what would I look up to find that?
Well, it's the ABC weekend. It's the ABC weekend specials. You can do that, or you can Google us. Let's see, and then of course we got a website, and we got some things on our website too. Willie and Lester at AOL. No, that's wrong. No, WillieandLester.com.
Yeah, because I always look forward to that on Saturday mornings, man.
Yeah, and then there's some cuts on YouTube. You know, when you go to YouTube, once things go on YouTube, anything that's videotaped or something always winds up somewhere on YouTube. If you dig high and low enough, you can find it.
Oh, absolutely.
I looked the other day and I found some outtakes from Gunsmoke where the actors messed up. Jim messed up his lines. You can find that stuff on there too.
How much has Lester become a part of your life as far as when you're not entertaining? Do you almost think of him as like a real person now?
Well, yeah, you have to think of him as a personality, because if you don't think of him as a personality, people watching won't think of him as a personality. It's like it's like an actor being in a role. You know, when some actors get into a particular part where they play a particular role, and some of them have problems getting out of that role. But it's like with Lester, it's like, for example, I can be on stage and I'm talking, and he can, the Lester part can interrupt me, because there's a particular line that I left out and it wouldn't be funny unless that line was put back in. So in order to fix it, he has to correct me, and vice versa. So it's almost like rubbing your head and patting your stomach at the same time.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will say to me, they say, when I see me, they'll say, where is he? You know, and you always come up with stuff like he's at the mall, or he's getting his car fixed or something like that. You don't say he's in a suitcase.
One of the funniest things I seen you guys do, I don't remember where it was at, but you and Lester were talking, and you say something, and Lester goes, "What's wrong with you? You can't understand yourself?"
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, that thing that was on the David Letterman show. It's
Man,
like
that was hilarious.
Yeah, don't you understand what you're saying? Yeah. That's really tough. It's really something. Again, being in show business, you probably know a lot of people in show business, but most of the performers in show business, performers never retire, because they keep doing it. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. It's about being on stage. When you're on stage and the light comes on, or you're on TV and the light comes on, and that's your life. You live for that, you know, and you just can't put that away. And what's his name? George Burns, the guy. He was doing it till he was 101 years old.
Oh yeah.
So people just do it, you know, as long as they can do it, you know, and do it well.
How do you get inspiration for new material?
But, you know, it's like, it's a situation where you just look at the news, you see what's going on in the news or what's going on around you, and you just try to make it funny. That's pretty much what, if you watch comedians, that's what they do. They talk about particular things that are happening in everyday life, and you just make it funny. It's not like, some of them are like stories. If you watch a comic do his or her act, it's a situation where they're making a particular situation funny. It's not like a punchline or something like that. It's just a story. They're telling a story, and the story happens to be funny, and people can relate to it.
Willie, in all the traveling that you've done to perform, in the way airports are, have you ever lost Lester traveling?
You know, it's like I better knock on Lester, you know. But it's like I never lost him. But it's like one time I was working Lake Tahoe, and I was working up in Lake Tahoe, and I was working with Sammy Davis Jr. That's quite some time ago, and I had to go from Lake Tahoe to Reno to go to L.A. for an interview for some particular commercial, and then come back to Reno, and then go back up to Lake Tahoe to do the show, continue the show up there. But what I did on those particular days, I used to check Lester's body, and so I checked it and got to L.A. and no problem, and I did the commercial interview, and then I got back on the plane, got back to Reno. When I got back to Reno, got off the plane, went to baggage claim, and I'm waiting for Lester's bod to come around in the case, and the carousel stopped, and there was no Lester.
Oh,
and I went to baggage claim and said, no, we know where it's at. It's in L.A. It didn't make this flight, but it'll be in this evening. I said, what time this evening? They said, it'll be at 8:30. And 8:30 is like, that's what time the show starts up in Tahoe, and that's an hour away. So right away, it's like, I can't get up there. I can't make the show with Sammy Davis Jr. I can't make the show with Sammy Davis because Lester's body's not here. But what happened was, like, because we had two shows in Tahoe, by the time I got there, Sammy Davis had done the first show, and it worked out nicely because the first show was like employees' night at Harris Casino up here. It was employees' night, so he took my time, and he asked for requests. Because Sammy, he's the kind of guy he can do zillions amount of time. You know, he can do this, and he loves being on stage. So it was no problem. So, but after that, every night he'd come to my dressing room. He'd say, "You got the head, you got the body," and all that. And then from that, we were able to do the Tonight Show in L.A. because he was subbing for Johnny Carson. So I was able to do the Tonight Show with Sammy Davis hosting it at that particular time. So it worked out nicely. So even though it seemed like it was a bad thing at the time, but it worked out.
That's crazy. I mean, you're talking about a legend right there, and just kind of goating at you.
Well, yeah, and we did. And I don't. Well, some people remember. I go back to the laugh-in days and stuff. But it's like we had done that particular show, and he was on there. That's where we were able to get our first picture with Sammy back in those days. But we were able to work with a lot of people. Dolly Parton, all the folks. We worked with them, rubbed shoulders with them. It was nice. It was nice. It is nice, and it's still nice. I'm still enjoying it.
Well, your act is so classy and so iconic.
You know what happens? What happens is like you can see, like for example, particular entertainers, they'll do acts and they'll do X lifts. They'll put things. They'll say words that you really, that people some still bleep out.
Right.
Right. But see, the reason I never got into that is because when I was growing up and I was doing shows and I did a strip club in Detroit, Michigan, and a strip club is like an adult club. And
right.
back in those days, when any comedian that did clubs, they couldn't. It had to be clean. It couldn't be a 4-letter word. You couldn't say 4-letter words. Even in a strip club, you could not say 4-letter words, or you lose your gig. So it's like I just learned from that. It's just the idea. I never did it because I came from that particular era. You can make things can be funny without those particular things. But what happens? It's like nowadays words, 4-letter words are not. They're out there because they're not. When kids will say 4-letter words, but they don't. It doesn't mean what it meant to us back in those days. Because they say it is like it's just part of the vocabulary. It's not supposed to be shocking or anything like that. But I just learned from the old school, and that's.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be unheard of to hear you guys do that. It would be shocking, is what it would be like. What?
And I find it too. It's hard to. Maybe it's a psychological thing. It's hard to say the 4-letter words without moving your lips. So maybe that's sort of strange.
Do you think ventriloquism has changed in any way over the years?
Well, ventriloquism has been around, for a whole bunch of years, and it's like it started in vaudeville back in those days. But it's because of television. I think it's you see a lot more ventriloquists now than you would have a few years back, and it's a situation where if you're really good at it, then people become your fans and stuff like that, and it works out nicely. So I'm saying that ventriloquism is that's one of the reasons I got into it, because there weren't that many ventriloquists. So I figured there were so many singers when I was growing up. There were so many musicians. There were so many dancers and stuff. So I said, well, I'll try the ventriloquist thing, because of Paul Winchell, and there weren't any ventriloquists around my neighborhood, in Detroit, growing up in Detroit.
When I was watching something recent that you had done, and you and Lester were sitting there bantering back and forth, and it looked like Lester raised his arms up.
Oh yeah.
I had never seen that before. It took me off guard, and I was like, "Wow, man!"
It's like my brother came with that idea. What happened was like a few years back. We were talking. My brother and I were talking about. I wanted to get one of his arms to move up, like his right arm to move up at the end of a song, so that like he's got it up in the air. So what I would do, I jerry-rigged a gooseneck, like the gooseneck lamp.
Mm-hmm.
You move a lamp up, it stays up, and you pull it down, it'll stay down. Mm-hmm. It's like I had like a gooseneck, a pipe in his arm. So when I grabbed his right arm, I could pull his arm up, and it would stay up at the end of a song, and like he's holding it up, holding a note or something like that. And then I'll pull the arm down. But I said, I don't know about that. I want it to move up without me touching it. So anyway, my brother and I, we got in his garage one day, and we were trying to get this one arm to go up. And anyway, we fooled around with it and for a few hours, and then we had both arms moving. We came upon it by accident, and then we got the both arms to move. So Lester's animated now, and that adds a lot more to his personality too.
Oh yeah, you got a lot of laughs from that on the David Letterman show.
Yeah.
Do you still work as hard as you did when you were younger, or has your success enabled you to pick and choose your gigs?
Well, we pretty much pick and choose them, but it's like it's like I said before. It's good to be able to perform, to get up on stage and perform. And again, it's good to be able to do it with Lester because you keep sharp that way. You just keep sharp and being on stage. And sometimes and with our act, when you get on stage, we have like an outline. Like for example, sometimes you'll see an act, and you go see that act again. It's almost like watching a videotape because it's the same thing. They do the same thing. But with me, I have an outline, and I go up, and when we do the act, it's an outline. So when you see the show, it's not the same show each time because I jump around. We jump back and forth and stuff like that. And the reason I had gotten in that particular format is because we used to work the Apollo Theater up in Harlem there in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And also, but this is with Motown, and also the Howard Theater in Washington D.C. and the Baltimore in Baltimore. Anyway, these particular theaters, they wanted to come to see the Motown sound or the rock and roll shows or whatever. When you get the young kids, you have hecklers. You have hecklers in the audience,
Oh, no.
So if you did a prepared act where it's a routine and it's scripted, people would say stuff in the audience. It would break your concentration off, and so you wouldn't be able to finish your set routine. But with us, we had little pieces, like little chain links. So if somebody said something out of the audience, we would say something back to them. Or Lester would say something back to them.
He'd handle it.
Right.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is did Lester ever tear into anybody to protect Willie?
Yeah. And they would accept it from him. It's like they probably wouldn't accept it from me or maybe just a regular stand-up comic. But him being a little character like that, they would accept it from him and they would be quiet. and then we would go on and put another little link in there and go on and finish our show.
I bet Lester could really put a tongue lashing on somebody too.
Yeah, he really does it in such an easy kind of way. It's not like he doesn't demean them in a way. He does it in such a way that they see the levity in it, and the person that whose case he's on will laugh also.
Well, not to change the subject or anything, but what's Willie Tyler do when he's not a ventriloquist or on stage? I mean, what kind of hobbies do you got? Do you got anything besides ventriloquism that you do? I mean,
well, it's like I just what I like writing. Well, as I mentioned about the songs. I like writing songs and stuff like that. And when I was younger, I thought I was going to be like a carpenter. So I do a lot of carpentry stuff. I mean, I like working with my hands because I tried to make the first Lester. I tried to make a ventriloquist figure when I was small, and it didn't work out. I couldn't do that. But I like the just sitting around and writing songs and I love the music situation.
Now you got a wonderful voice. Do you play any kind of instruments or anything?
No, I started. I play the songs that I wrote. I wrote them on the guitar. And it's like I was like Elvis, and Elvis mentioned this when he was around. He mentioned that he only played I think 4 chords. Something like he only did 4 chords, and he put a capo on it to change the key or something like that. But he had background enough to be able to do his songs. But he really didn't play guitar that well. But I really didn't play guitar that well, and I didn't play piano that well. But I was able to play enough chords to get the song, get the melody, and everything like that. Then I would take it to a guy who knew music, an arranger, and they would put all those pretty things in there, those professional things into the songs.
Well, let me ask you this, and I've heard you do this song numerous times, but it's always different when I hear it. Hambone, did you come up with that, or is that an old song, or?
No, that's the Hambone is the thing that we growing up in Detroit, and it was done all over the place. Growing up, if we had Levi's on, and it's better when you got like about 5 guys doing it at the same time. The Levi's pants, Levi's shirt, because you can get that sound. That sound comes off the denim. When you hit when you hit it with your hand. And but Hambone, that was like pretty much a standard thing that people used to do as I was growing up. But then when I did the Letterman show, we did the Hambone, but I did it with lyrics that I made up. Just a little short lyrics that I made up myself. But it was a Hambone, but different lyrics.
I like my favorite version of the Hambone was the one you did on the Jeffersons.
Oh yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Sherman Hemsley. Wow, that was. I really liked that particular show because every now and then that particular show will run again, and I'll see. I'll be watching TV, and all of a sudden, the Jeffersons. The episode is on. I look. It's a pleasant surprise to be able to see that. It was really a classic thing to be able to do that. To be on a show that it was all built around Lester and George Jefferson and Willie and he was being. We were like we were stock market. We were.
You guys were stockbrokers.
Stockbrokers. Yeah.
And you were trying to hook up with Florence.
Yeah. It was like it was a situation where that was like a message show in a way because it was saying the message to that show was because the Roy Crandall, that was me, the character I played. He had come out of a mental institution or something like that. That's why George wanted to get his money back, because he had given me some money to invest. He found out from his old stockbroker that he said that guy just came out of a mental hospital. So what happened at the end? We saved his wife Wheezy from the elevator. Her elevator, she was like basically stuck in the elevator, and I was able to go down the next floor and get her out of the elevator. And so the message of the show was like just because people go in and have counseling and stuff like that doesn't mean they're raising lunatics.
Right.
So that was sort of the message for that particular show.
Second chance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Willie, can you tell everyone where you'll be performing at next?
Well, actually right now I'm in LA right now. I'm going to be here. I'm going to go out I'm going to be on a cruise. I'm going on Christmas cruises. I do the ships periodically. So I'll go out. I'm going out. That'll be probably that'll be 1st of February going out on that to Hawaii, and I do those particular things. And I go around and I do some of the because we got a lot of casinos around now, not only in Vegas. And I'm going there, and I'm going to wind up going up to Oregon. I'll be able to Lincoln, Oregon. That's later on in the latter part of February.
Well, like you said earlier, you can also go check check out your website.
The website is then willieandlester.com.
And everybody can get on YouTube, like you said earlier, also, and check out some of your old shows and your recent shows like that.
Yes.
And Willie, I really appreciate you stopping by here and chatting with me and Randy today. I hope you enjoyed your time with us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.